There's something practically for every kind of gamer.
Some of my most favorite games were for the NES.
This is the story of Nintendo and how one little gray and black box injected life into the gaming market. In the July of 1983, a small Japanese company called Nintendo released a new game system in Japan called Famicom, or known as the Family Computer. After the release of the game Super Mario Bros., the Famicom did well, selling over 500,000 units in 2 months. The new console was priced at about $100 US and was inexpensive compared to the competition. Business soon grew as the months passed. As time went on, the Famicom proved to be a huge success all over Japan. In 1985, Nintendo announced they were releasing the Famicom video game console in the United States. It would hit the shelves in Canada in the February of 1986. For the North American release, Nintendo would redo the Family Computer to appeal to American culture. It would be introduced as the Nintendo Entertainment System. The Nintendo Entertainment System, known as the NES for short, is an 8-bit video system with 2 controller ports and a futuristic look. Nintendo took North America by storm. The new console was an absolute hit, with hot titles like Super Mario Bros., Metroid, and Zelda, among a large library of games that captured the public's interest. In its North American release, 2 different bundles of the NES system were sold. The first bundle sold for $199.99 US and included the console itself, 2 game controllers, and a Super Mario Bros. Game cartridge. The second bundle, the deluxe set, retailed for $249.99 US and consisted of the console, an NES Zapper, and 2 game packs, Duck Hunt and Gyromite. For the remainder of the NES sales, the consoles would be repackaged with different games and accessories. Some of these accessories that were included or sold separately were the NES Zapper, also known as the Beam Gun. This futuristic ray gun was first released in 1985 as part of a bundle. It originally came in gray and was later available in orange. The Nintendo Zapper allowed players to target various objects in games like Duck Hunt and Hogan's Alley. Pulling the trigger gives off a loud blast sound signaling a shot on your television. A must-have for Christmas. Then there was the NES Advantage controller released in 1987. This was an arcade-style controller meant to rest on a player's lap, giving them the ultimate arcade experience. It featured a slow-motion feature which I tend to use in Back to the Future to defeat the bullies in Lou's Cafe. It also has adjustable turbo controllers for the A and B buttons. Whether you're jumping hurdles or hopping on one foot, an accessory that gave you a chance to get up and move around was the Power Pad. Released in 1988, the Power Pad allowed players to race against each other in the Olympics and world-class track meet, or exercise and athletic world. World-class track meet included various physical activities such as long jump, 100-meter dash, and hurdles. Athletic World is a one-player workout game that had a good selection of levels and have you hop on one leg, crouch on the ground, run incredibly fast, and stand on different parts of the pad on one foot for lengthy times. A total of 11 games were created for the use of the Power Pad. The Power Glove was released in 1989 and was the first controller to recreate human motion on television and computer screens. Almost 100,000 were sold in the United States. Though it would be rejected from gamers due to its difficulty to perform tasks such as jumping and using items, it's still pretty cool. In the movie The Wizard, made in 1989, you can witness the power of the Power Glove, as it was used by Jackie Vincent while playing Rad Racer. For players wishing to get through a game a lot quicker, Game Genie was the answer. By attaching the Game Genie to your game and inserting into the console, a screen would appear allowing a player to cheat. You would simply input the codes from the codebook provided, and a player would gain a valuable handicap during gameplay. These cheats range from infinite lives, infinite ammo, world warping, infinite money, or infinite magic and spellcasting. In the summer of 1988, Nintendo published the first issue of Nintendo Power, a monthly magazine with tips, codes, and strategies. This magazine remains one of the longest running gaming magazines in the United States. Every issue featured a variety of helpful sections that included codes, most popular games, challenges, and even comics. The classified information section featured walkthroughs and secrets not listed in the game's manual. These tips and cheats are very helpful when you spend hours trying to beat a boss or level. Players' Challenge is a section where players send in their top scores in hopes of winning a free t-shirt or challenging readers to do extremely hard levels without handicap. Counselor's Corner was also a very helpful way on getting tips from Nintendo's game counselors. These counselors, or advisors, would answer game-related questions, providing hints and strategies. Perhaps one of the best sections in the Nintendo Power magazines are the comics. Every issue included either a Star Fox, Mario, or Zelda comic strip. By 1988, 9.4 million Nintendo units were sold in the United States, but that didn't mean there wasn't any competition for the gray and black box. In 1989, Sega released its Sega Genesis. This was a 16-bit system that would, in the years to come, become Sega's most successful console. With improved graphics, colors, and animation, Nintendo would have to compete with the new Genesis. In the August of 1989, Nintendo released a handheld game console known as the Game Boy. This small handheld console sold at a store price of $89.99 US and came bundled with the very popular Tetris puzzle game, selling over 33 million copies. The Game Boy has many options including a headphone jack, an external power supply allowing players to use a rechargeable battery pack instead of using batteries, and a link cable that can be used to go head-to-head against another player, provided they are playing the same game. This would become a must-have accessory for the future release of the popular Pokemon series. The Pokemon series, along with Tetris, were the most popular of the many cartridges released. Other evolved versions to come of the Game Boy include Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy Advance SP. In 1991, Sega responded to Nintendo's Game Boy by launching its Sega Game Gear, their version of a handheld console. As a result, Nintendo received enormous competition from the new Sega handheld. As a promotion, Sega aired many negative commercials in the United States, criticizing the Game Boy's lack of color.
Whoa. Color. Hey, there's an easier way to get color. Get a Game Gear, the full color portable with over 150 games, like the new Echo, Mortal 2, and Sonic Triple Trouble.
The Game Gear had an available 300 games at a price range from $24.99 to $29.99 each, all with impressive color, graphics, and sound quality. Nintendo would once again come out on top with its Game Boy and Game Boy Color, combined selling over 118 million handheld units and over 450 million cartridges worldwide. As the 1990s dawned, systems like the new Sega Genesis began to darken the NES spotlight. To compete with the growing market and competition, Nintendo would have to design a new console to compete with the gameplay and graphics that was available for the Sega Genesis. The Nintendo Entertainment System would continue to be popular until it was discontinued in 1995. Almost 62 million NES consoles were sold. Its best-selling games were Super Mario Bros. 3, selling over 18 million copies, and the original Super Mario Bros., selling over 40 million copies. Other popular titles included Final Fantasy, and the Zelda series. We asked a couple people what their favorite NES games were.
Ice hockey.
And what is it about this game that you like the most?
Well, it's a pretty simple and easy game to play. It's pretty fast paced. I like hockey. It's one of my favorite sports. Some of my favorite parts is the fighting, the shootouts. Its exciting part is when it gets intense at third period, when the crowd's just going wild and there's only a few minutes left on the clock. It's just an all-around good game.
Probably have to go with Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link. It was a really challenging game, man, and it was all medieval fantasy stuff. And you got to fight with a sword, shield, got to use magic spells. Unlike Final Fantasy, you actually got to fight the monsters instead of just line up and pretend to hit them, you know? And you got to learn all sorts of new sword moves and spells, and got all kinds of cool items to fight bad guys with, and all the dungeon stuff you had to go through. It's pretty challenging, a lot of fun.
Okay, my favorite game for the NES was Wizards and Warriors. So much fun. I remember how proud I was whenever I first beat it. I don't know, I must have been 8. It's the greatest day ever. Plus it was fairly well put together too. You saw the map of everywhere you had to go. I know whenever you finally got to the end you had to fight this wizard. It was really easy whenever you made it there because you had so much stuff. At the end you had boots that let you stand on bubbles. You had magic wands. I mean, this guy was a tank. He had boots that could kick open chests. Couldn't beat this guy.
Excite Bike because it was fun, it allowed you to design your own track, and it was one of the more original racing games for the NES. Spent many countless hours playing it with my brothers and whatnot, and I just kind of had a blast doing it. I guess when you're young, racing games are just the coolest thing in the world, and that was probably one of the funnest ones, and it was about dirt bike racing, so really, you can't go wrong.
Nintendo, it's for breakfast now. Nintendo, it's the cereal. Wow. Nintendo, Super Mario Jump. Nintendo, in a fruit flavored crunch. Nintendo, here's Zelda 2. Nintendo, it's very good news. Nintendo, you just can't. Nintendo cereal system is a super part of this nutritious breakfast. Nintendo, 2 cereals in 1. Wow.
In 1991, Nintendo made their North American release of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or the Super NES, a 16-bit evolved version of the past NES system. The new console introduced a new age of sound and graphics capabilities compared to the NES. Designed by the designer of the original Famicom, the Super Nintendo was released in Japan on Wednesday, November 21st, 1990. In just several hours, Nintendo's shipment of over 300,000 units had sold out. The battle of the consoles continued, with Sega portraying their Sega Genesis as the cool system, with commercials often attacking the competition. The Super NES became an instant hit and global success, even after a late start and fierce competition with the Sega Genesis. Nintendo would eventually annihilate the Sega Genesis with games like The Legend of Zelda, the Final Fantasy series, and Super Mario World. Super Mario World would sell over 20 million copies worldwide. Like the previous Mario games in the series, the plot involves Mario traveling through different lands on a quest to rescue Princess Toadstool, who has been kidnapped by Bowser. In this newer version, Mario can now perform a spin jump, and he can pick up and toss turtle shells straight up in the air. With impressive gameplay and a decent soundtrack, Super Mario World would become one of the best-selling video games of all time. Like the NES, the Super NES has different accessories to enhance the player's experience. One of these accessories included the NES mouse. Mario Paint was released in May of 1992 and was played using the mouse. The game gives the player a variety of tools such as brushes, pens, and pre-made graphics, all controllable with the click of a mouse to create impressive artwork. Another option is the ability to create simple animation, with music created in the Mario Paint music generator. In 1994, an organization called the Entertainment Software Ratings Board was created to enforce ratings and advertising guidelines in video games and computer games in North America. One of the reasons the Entertainment Software Ratings Board was created was due to the violent content in games like Doom and Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat was originally released by Midway Games for arcade systems in 1992. It would eventually be released on the Super NES in 1993. It is most known for its blood and gore, decapitations, and extremely graphic fatalities in the series to follow. These fatalities required a button combination to be able to rip the skin off or throw a player into a pit of nails, which led to the creation of the ESRB. One of the best parts is the tournament mode using the 8-man cheat in Mortal Kombat 3. The game has a large variety of characters that can fight to the death.
Cyrax wins fatality.
Doom was available for the Super NES in North America on February 29, 1996. This first-person shooter lets a player use a variety of weapons such as a pistol, shotgun, Gatling gun, rocket launcher, and even a chainsaw to grind enemies into dog meat. The object of the game is to fight your way through to the exit and advance to the next level. Along the way, a player can encounter many demons, possessed marines, imps, and other creatures from hell. As violent as the game is, it's still a pretty cool and challenging game. Doom remains one of the few controversial games with its graphic violence, gore, and satanic images. It has been criticized and argued by different religious groups, calling it a mass murder simulator. The game also has sparked many questions whether it is linked to the cause of school shootings.
I gotta go with Final Fantasy III. It's an excellent RPG. Every character could do their own special ability, had their own special abilities. Virtually every character could learn how to cast spells, and the story was deep. Just when you thought you knew what was going on, all of a sudden there was a major twist in the storyline. People getting killed, new people coming in. And just when you thought you had the bad guy, all of a sudden he's got almost godlike power, and now you have to face off against him again.
So you're definitely like a big time gamer.
Oh yes.
Rock and roll racing.
And what is it about this game that you like the most?
Well, it's really fun and competitive.
The stage is set. The green flag drops.
Some of the things I really like about it is the great music, the crazy race tracks, the vehicles are pretty cool. I also really like the graphics and the sound. The idea of shooting missiles at other cars makes the game entertaining. It's a really cool racing game.
Super NES, I think Chrono Trigger. Just because of the 10 different endings, you had to get them all. That was the most important part. You had to get all of the endings or you didn't really beat the game. What made the game for me was whenever you got to use maggots. So he's been the bad guy through the first part of the game, and then all of a sudden he's on your team. I mean, that was the switch I never saw coming. And then you had the choice of not getting Chrono back or not. I mean, there's no other game where you can actually just let the main character just die.
Chrono Trigger. I like this game specifically for, well, there's quite a few reasons. For one, time travel. It involves a lot of time traveling back and forth and so on. That's something that I really pay a lot of attention to and think is kind of a cool subject to do anything on, really. It's got a lot of great characters in it. Each of them is very individually well described throughout the storyline, which brings you to the storyline, which is the other main reason I like it so much. For example, the ability to, you can change the future, you can do many different little tiny things that affect various other points in the game, such as eating an old man's lunch, which affects you during a trial for some strange reason. Your main character, you don't necessarily always have to keep him. You can, let him die and leave him, and that changes the future towards the end of the game and so forth too. So it's got a perfect soundtrack. There's a lot of weird things in it too. There's a lot of weird characters, like giant white things that play pianos for some reason. I just love it because it's a great game, and I don't know, it's old, but it's still classic.
Chrono Trigger would have to be probably one of my favorite games for the Super Nintendo. Like, it is an awesome RPG. It's one of the few games that when you get into a battle scene, the game doesn't dissolve into a battle scene and you just kind of fight the enemies right there on the screen. It has a really impressive soundtrack. Some of the music is actually kind of eerie. But no, it is probably one of my most favorite Super Nintendo games.
The story really is impressive. You basically find out that in the future the world has been destroyed, so you try to change history by stopping it from happening. But if you fail, you witness the destruction of the planet, and the game really rubs it in. As rival companies moved into the 32-bit age, the Super NES still continued to be popular. Nintendo proved that the Super NES was still a strong competitor in the gaming market. In the November of 1994, Donkey Kong Country was released by Rare. It quickly sold out with its high-quality 3D graphics and music, outdoing some of the competition's games that were released on a 32-bit console. The game would sell over 9 million copies, making it third best-selling game for the Super NES. With a large library of games, the Super NES left its mark. Even after it was discontinued in 1999, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System continues to be popular among its fans and collectors. Some of the Super NES's games have been made available for the Game Boy Advance, which has similar video capabilities. Over 49 million Super NES units were sold worldwide. On June 23, 1996, Nintendo released the Nintendo 64 in Japan. The Nintendo 64 was later released in North America in the early October of 1996. It was a huge hit. This was the one fans had waited for. With 4 controller ports, up to 4 people could enjoy a night of gaming at one time. The N64 carried a price tag of $199 and the slogan, "Get in or get out." There were also different colored versions of the console, opposed to the standard dark gray. A new series of bright colors such as orange, green, and red were available. The N64 also had a new groovy looking controller opposed to the original looking NES and Super NES controllers. It featured wing-like handles, a joystick for slow or quick maneuverability, and 4 new yellow buttons on the top right corner. The standard N64 cartridge was gray, but some games like the Legend of Zelda series were released as special editions with a gold casing. Some of the most popular 64 games were Mario 64 and Goldeneye. Mario 64 was released for the Nintendo 64 on September 26, 1996, and was one of the titles bundled with the N64 console. With unique camera angles and an incredible 3D world, Mario 64 gives a player the freedom to wander around throughout levels and the map, and discover all parts of the level without limits. Mario can perform a backflip and a special power jump among other actions including walking, tiptoeing, running, crawling, swimming, and climbing. In this version, Bowser has taken control of the castle and Mario must seek power stars to unlock doors and other rooms within the castle. Many of the castle's paintings are portals into other worlds where Bowser keeps some of the power stars. Mario 64 is a real success in the gaming world, receiving many awards including Game of the Year. It has been ranked average 9 out of 10 by many different gaming magazines. Game Informer commented that even a decade later, it still offers hours of entertainment. Mario 64 placed 6th on the official Nintendo magazine's 100 Greatest Nintendo Games of All Time. Goldeneye would be one of the most popular games for the Nintendo 64, paving the way for the future development of first-person shooters to come. Based on the 007 Goldeneye movie starring Pierce Brosnan, the game allows a player to participate in some of the scenes portrayed in the movie. The levels are extended for the game, but are very accurate to what is shown in the movie. The game has a very stealth feel to it, where a player must avoid security cameras and loud machine guns to remain undetected. If, however, you are noticed, a loud alarm is activated, and several guards will be happy to escort you off the property. With a great selection of weapons like machine guns, silencers, knives, rocket launchers, mines, shotguns, and pistols, the best part of this game is the multiplayer mode. Goldeneye is best known for its incredible multiplayer deathmatch, allowing up to 4 players in a variety of multiplayer modes. With a list of familiar characters like Oddjob, Jaws, and other characters from previous Bond movies, this is a really great game. GoldenEye 64 is still one of the most popular and most talked about Nintendo 64 games, ranking number 1 on many fans' top 10 lists. On September 9th, 1995, a new competitive console was introduced to the North American market by Sony. Sony launched its PlayStation console with a price tag of $299. Fans soon saw a new generation of gaming with high-quality graphics and sound, in games like the Resident Evil series.
What is it?
Watch out! It's a monster!
Let me take care of this.
Final Fantasy VII, and the Tekken series. Besides a larger price tag in comparison to the Nintendo 64, many of the PlayStation games were not suitable for children, bearing graphic violence, gore, or coarse language. Videos or cinematics were often used in PlayStation games to tell the story. The PlayStation would be the first console to ever ship and sell 100 million units. Games were no longer on cartridges, but CDs, making more space for better graphics and sound. Most of Nintendo's third-party developers like Square and Enix would begin to produce games for the PlayStation that were originally planned for the Nintendo 64. This was because discs were easier to manufacture and distribute, resulting in lower manufacturing costs. The Nintendo 64 still supported popular games like The Legend of Zelda and Goldeneye. Nintendo's Mario and Zelda continue to have a strong popular brand name, which are only for the Nintendo platforms. Zelda 64 was released in the November of 1998. In this version, our hero Link must stop the evil Ganondorf from getting the Triforce. Like the previous versions for the NES and Super NES, this game delivered awesome graphics, music, and gameplay. A new targeting feature is introduced in Zelda 64, where a player can target an enemy with a button combination when using a slingshot or a bow, among its many uses. There are many different dungeons that hold secrets and fun puzzles to solve. Like Mario 64, Zelda offers a large environment that Link can jump and run around in. Its graphics were an awesome success for the depth and detail. Even with its late release, it won Game of the Year in 1998 and has received a perfect score in many different game magazines. Zelda 64 would sell over 7.6 million copies in its lifespan. The Nintendo 64 was the most advanced console of its time. It endured a long shelf life, with almost 33 million systems sold worldwide. Its best-selling games were Mario 64, Goldeneye, and Zelda. Over a decade after their release, they still remain very popular with fans and collectors.
What's your favorite 64 game?
Super Mario 64.
And what is it about this game that you like the most?
Well, I just like how there's just such a big environment you can run around, and the idea of collecting the stars and everything. It's a pretty cool game. Bowser, he's really big in it. Also, he gets pretty hard, especially around the last of the game. It's an overall really good game.
For the 64, it'd have to be Mario Party. Because, well, for one, it's a 4-player game, and if you don't have 4 players, they substitute with computers. So either way, it's 4-player. And then you got the mini games. The mini games. That's where the party starts. Let's see, you got Shy Guy says, the different flags. You don't get it right, you're gone. Then, we got Balloon Burst. First one to blow up a balloon, it goes kapow, wins.
Finish! Start!
Let's see, Bumper Balls has to be the classic. That's the one where you're all running on top of a ball, as not so easy as it sounds. You gotta bounce each other off the Solila. Last one wins, then it's over.
Finish!
So, the mini games really get the game going.
So my favorite game for the 64, Smash Brothers. Easily the greatest, most fun party game ever. 4 crazy characters from all of the Nintendo universe packed into one game, and then you get to beat the crap out of each other. I mean, come on, that was amazing. You had Captain Falcon, Pikachu. God, I love beating the crap out of this stupid rat. Mario, Link, all those other guys, they were great too. That was a favorite game for the 64.
In the November of 2001, Nintendo launched its Nintendo GameCube. The GameCube, also known as the Cube, was the first of the Nintendo's consoles to use discs instead of cartridges. This was also Nintendo's first online accessible console. Just like the N64, the Cube also had a variety of color schemes. Some of these included indigo, the console's default color, jet black, platinum for limited editions, and orange spice GameCubes that were primarily released in Japan. The new GameCube also had a cool looking controller, like the awesome looking N64 controller. A wireless version called the Wavebird was also released, using 2 AA batteries. The GameCube's controllers, both regular and wireless, are both compatible with the future Wii console. At this point in time, the GameCube's competition was the PlayStation 2, released in the October of 2000 by Sony, and Microsoft's Xbox, released in the November of 2001. In the November of 2004, Sony unveiled a smaller, thinner, and quieter version of the PlayStation 2. The PlayStation 2 would sell over 140 million consoles worldwide. It is best known for the controversial Grand Theft Auto series. In the game, you can steal cars, do hits for mob bosses, or get very friendly with downtown prostitutes. Microsoft's Xbox was not too far ahead of Nintendo's sales, with the Xbox selling over 24 million consoles in its lifespan. Like the Cube's competitor, the GameCube uses a memory card to save all your hard-earned work, unlike Microsoft's Xbox, which features a built-in hard drive. The Cube's memory cards come in multiple sizes that include a gray card with 59 blocks, black with 251, and white with 1019 blocks of space. Although the GameCube would not be as popular as Sony's PlayStation line, the GameCube sold almost 22 million systems worldwide. Its best-selling game was Super Smash Bros. Melee, with over 7 million copies sold. On November 19th, 2006, Nintendo released a new home video game console into the American market. This console was simply known as the Wii. The Wii is played using a Wii remote. It can be attached to another accessory such as the nunchuck controller. Like the N64 and GameCube remotes, the nunchuck has great maneuverability. The Wii remote takes 2 AA batteries, which comes with every Wii bundle, or you can buy a remote charger that easily charges your controllers. As of March 25th, 2009, the Nintendo Wii has sold over 45 million systems worldwide. It is reported that the Wii upon its release has sold more units in the United States than Microsoft's Xbox 360 and Sony's PlayStation 3 combined. With the enormous supply and demand, the Wii was selling faster than they could be produced, making them very rare on store shelves, creating chaos at Christmas time. In its North American launch, 33 titles would be available. The Wii console sold for a retail price of $249.99 and included the Wii console, 1 Wii remote and nunchuck, the stand, the sensor bar for wireless remotes to function, a set of batteries, and the Wii Sports game. Wii Sports would be the most popular game for the Wii, and according to Nintendo, has sold 40.5 million copies worldwide, including the bundled copies. Wii Sports features 5 different interactive games involving the remote and nunchuck. These include tennis, baseball, boxing, golf, and bowling. By holding up the Wii remote, you can swing a baseball bat, or down low acting as a golf club to make that hole in one. Each of these sports in Wii Sports are all very entertaining as they are tiring. Like the Power Pad released for the NES, Wii Sports gives you a real workout. There are many different Wii accessories that can be used along with the Wii remote. Some of these accessories include the Wii Wheel, Wii Zapper, Wii Tennis Racket, and Wii Classic Controller. The Wii Wheel is a must-have for the game Mario Kart to get the ultimate driving experience. Mario Kart supports up to 4 players and has a large variety of 32 tracks and 24 selectable characters to play. It uses the same concept as the Super NES version, but with more characters, better graphics and sound, and of course a working steering wheel. Every character has his or her special vehicle besides a go-kart or motorcycle. Much like a lot of racing games such as Gran Turismo for the PlayStation series, Mario Kart allows you to drift behind another racer to gain a valuable speed boost. Motorcycles also have the ability to drift as well as do wheelies. Besides the classic kart available for race, Mario Kart Wii holds several different vehicles for every playable character. Mario Kart Wii enjoyed a very successful release in the April of 2008. It sold over 1 million copies in both Japan and the United States in less than a month. It has been received positively by the public for its gameplay and its online capabilities. Many game magazines, including Nintendo Power, gave Mario Kart Wii a 9 out of 10 score.
So what's your favorite Wii game?
Mario Kart Wii. Basically, the realistic of it, the steering wheel in your hands. It's like you're driving. None of this pushing button stuff. You want to get rid of somebody, you know how you get real road rage? You can't do it. This one, somebody coming up behind you, got a red shell, let her rip. Boom, there they go flying. Once you've played this game, there ain't no going back to the old one. You try to play, once you played with the wheel, you try to play with the buttons, you try to turn the joystick. It doesn't work.
Resident Evil 4, because I'm a big fan of the storyline. It's got a lot of awards. Actually, it's got a Gamer's Choice Award.
Excuse me. Sir?
Freeze! I said freeze!
It's just a fun game to play. I mean, you go around blowing up zombies, you uncover some weird conspiracy story, and I just like the game because it's got a great storyline. There's a bunch of conspiracy stories to the whole game, and everything kind of develops from one thing into another. The characters are great, really well developed, and it's probably one of the more simpler games to understand on the Wii, and really the graphics are pretty solid, so again, that's basically why I like the game so much. Honestly, to be totally honest, who really doesn't like blowing a zombie's head off? I mean, seeing parts fly off them and things like that, and when they come up and they're and then you go boom and then they just blow apart. Who doesn't love that? A lot of the zombies are a lot more evolved. For example, some of them, if you shoot them in the head a couple times, their head blows off, and then a parasite comes out of the top of the head, and like it still comes after you, and it's even harder to kill, and it's just pretty intense.
Take one out when the other's not left face down.
Nintendo's direct competition for its Wii console is PlayStation 3. North America was introduced to the PlayStation 3 in the November of 2006. Like the Xbox, the PS3 features a built-in hard drive system for saving your game. Several sizes were available, including a 20, 40, 60, 80, and 160 gigabyte hard drive. As of December 31st, 2008, over 21 million PS3 consoles have been sold worldwide. The PS3 hit Japan like a brick, selling over 81,500 consoles within 24 hours. However, the new console came with a very large price tag, which affected its sales. The PS3 20-gig hard drive was priced at $499, compared to its Wii competitor priced at $249. Microsoft's Xbox 360 also has a built-in hard drive, available as a 20, 60, or 120 gig hard drive. As of January 14th, 2009, the Xbox 360 has sold almost 28 million consoles worldwide. The Wii continues to be popular to this day, progressing well in the gaming market.
Hey-ya!
almost 30 years, Nintendo has continued to provide us with their creative, funny, and entertaining video games. We've seen Mario evolve slowly throughout the years from a small two-dimensional figure to a fully three-dimensional talking Mario. As graphics and sound improve, players expect more from each new system. As time goes on, consoles continue to be more diverse and complex, while giving us all something to do on Friday nights. Now, let's play some Nintendo.
It's me, Mario!